Oh, okay, welcome to the February 4th, 2025 session of TAPR-HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I've been doing some 3D printing and some projects, splitters, and a few things like that. Um, but also dealing with stuff like licensing my cars and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's it for me. Next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF, and you've given a lot of your report already.
Actually, no, I haven't. I have
Oh,
quite a bit
okay.
more. So yes, it's been a very productive week or so here at the university. We're spinning up a couple. I don't want to say necessary. Yeah, well, some of them are new projects, but we're bringing new people onto the projects and kind of expanding the projects. So specifically with the personal space weather station, I now have three new students working on things and another new professor. So the uh, three students are we have two junior physics students, Nina Torman and Rebecca Potter. And Rebecca's licensed already. And then we also have Owen Rosansky, who's a freshman computer engineer. Um, the Rebecca and Nina are going to be working specifically. One's on the Personal Space Weather Station project, the DAISY project. The other one is working on the Antarctic project. We have working with them Dr. Christine Zagziski. She is a rather senior professor in the electrical engineering department with me, so she has a lot of experience. She has a history of doing like her PhD was like more biomedical engineering from Rutgers. But then she spent a lot of her time doing teaching and kind of quasi-administrative stuff, being department chair for a long time and then scheduling. And so she's looking to get back into research and she doesn't want to work with mice and animals anymore. So she thought our project sounded interesting. So we are very fortunate to have her working on the project. So I now have and then Owen is working on a project that's sponsored by the Frankfurt Radio Club to get the to develop a DX contesting dashboard for the personal space weather station. So we have purchased four sets of the RX 888s and the associated hardware. Majid is procuring all of that. And so each one of those people is going to get their own system to build up and work with. And so they're just starting to do that now. So that's kind of neat. Now, associated with that project, we now have a Monday afternoon meeting, which David McGaw has been participating in. And so David McGaw, Hyomin, these new students, Majid, Dr. Zaksiski, and Jim LaBelle from Dartmouth, we've been getting on and we've been talking about logistics for the Antarctic work. So there's a lot to understand and unpack there. It's not straightforward. It's actually very difficult to get information, but we are starting that and um, we're actually making good progress getting organized there. Similarly, in the after that, we have a meeting with the Frankfurt Radio Club and the students to talk about that project to develop the contesting dashboard. So all of that's going well. For the Frankfurt Radio Club, I said it probably doesn't make any sense for a student to develop a contesting dashboard if they have never contested before. So hence the whole thing about the RIDI contests that you've seen us doing. And so we're using this an excuse to get W3USR on the air and interact more with FRC and actually encourage really teach our students how to get on and contest. So we have that coming up this weekend. We've been doing a lot to just train the students and organize. It'll be exciting going out for it this time and we'll see how it goes. Also, I'm in the process of writing the annual report for the NASA Solar Eclipse QSO Party grant. So some people are helping me out with that. Our postdoc Kuldeep, who's at NJIT, he's been making really great progress on the analysis of the solar eclipse QSO party data. And it's not being published yet, but I think the results I've seen so far look extremely promising. He's doing good work with the ray tracing, and I think we've also found a good place for Jamal to participate in the project too. So he started attending those Monday morning meetings, and he is now, continuing. He gave a presentation on how he was using FarLap to start doing a link budget and calculate absorption over HF. He gave that presentation to this group a few weeks ago. So now I have him working directly with Kuldeep, who's also a FarLap user. So they're working together, and Kuldeep is kind of going to become Jamal's advisor and work a little more closely together with him. So I think things are all going in a good direction. And as I did mention, we're having, it's been a rough week for federal funding. Um, you know, I think it will impact the HamSCI workshop, but at the same time, Gareth and I and yeah, in Case Western, we've all been talking. I think we have good plans in place to be able to work with what we have and keep everything going. So we will have the HamSCI workshop. It will all go. So I think we're on track. Back to net.
Okay, well, reasonably good news.
Yeah.
And next on the list is Dave New, W8. There you go. SBE.
Oh, I've heard one other thing. Kukai, a postdoc from Scranton,
Or
Kukai,
N8.
yeah, Kukai and Ed F. Check, they're heading to Hamcation this week, so they'll be there probably at the ARDC booth if anyone's going to Hamcation. And then Kukai is also going to the International Space Weather Action Team meeting in Florida, along with Bill Engelke right after that. So that's happening as well.
Okay. Okay, Dave New,
Yeah,
go
hi.
ahead.
Yep. And as usual, I'm the fly on the wall here. I particularly enjoy listening to all of the technical talk going on here, particularly about K9Q projects that he's working on. So that's it. Back to net.
Okay, very good. Next on the list is Jay Schwartz. Go ahead, Jay. Jay, are you there? He didn't expect to be called this early. He has his mic active. Well, we'll skip over Jay and go.
Well, I'm
Oh,
here. I'm here. Sorry. Hi there. I had
hello.
a hi there. I had a very high priority phone call there. Super, very high priority personal phone call that I had to attend to. So, good evening, everybody. I don't really have anything to report tonight, and I'm just going to be sitting back here. Let me turn the camera on so at least you can see me. Yeah, there we go.
Yes,
So, um,
it's you and
yeah,
not AI.
yeah, um, yeah, it's been busy with Society of Automotive Engineers cybersecurity stuff. Has been fighting Zell to try and get payment from to somebody that needs it, and very frustrating dealing with that organization. Otherwise, nothing really new amateur radio wise. So I'm going to pass it back to Net Control 7-3 to all.
Okay. Next on the list is Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening. Not a whole lot new to report here. I've been fighting a um uh I won't say an Alexa attack, no, a arthritis attack, and that's cost me a good bit of time. Getting better, but still there, and so I haven't had a chance to do a lot. I'm getting a little bit deeper into digital modes and working a few of those now, getting more comfortable with it, although I need more practice. Otherwise, not much. Back to net K4BSE.
Okay. Next on the list, we have Scott Newell, N5TNL. Scott, do you have a mic?
Hey, does it
Yes.
work tonight?
Oh, yes, it
Okay.
does. Very good.
Different sound card, same headset, different sound card. Not much progress this week, but I did play with Get Bisect and Maggot. And I would like to say if Bill Engelkey is here tonight, I would like to ask if he received my email last week about the grape plot calibration stuff. And that's it for me.
Okay, well, I'm sure enjoying the fruits of your work. So thank you so much for all your efforts.
Oh, you bet. Thanks.
Next on the list is Al and Joe. Any comment? They're mic muted. Still mic muted, so I'm going to go on down the list. Next on the list is Bill Engelkey. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, thanks. As you might know, I spent last week helping my son in bitter cold Detroit move, and it was not a lot of fun, as you can imagine. But anyway, working with Kukai a little bit on getting prepared for the Space Weather Action Team meeting in Cape Canaveral, and she's putting together a list of the things that we're planning on working on in DASI Phase 2 and asked me to give her information about that. Now, I can tell her the side of it that is related to the data preparation and all of that, but Nathaniel, she might need some more information from you. Might have already spoken to you about this on additional equipment to be rolled out and other things that are kind of outside of my purview. So make sure that she has what she needs on that, and I will provide her with a list of things that are related to the data stuff. And I will be heading down to my daughter's house in Orlando and use that as my base of operations while I'm there. Heading down there on Sunday, and so that's about my report. Back to Ned.
Okay, sounds good. We'll look forward to hearing a report from what you figure out. Next on the list, we have, let's see, Bob, WB0BGD. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, sometimes I tell folks very good day and they can always remember it after that.
Oh, there you go.
No, I just very interested in what this group's doing. I'm fairly new to it. I joined HamSCI last summer. I saw a post in Facebook on this code called FARLAP and I got interested in it. And one thing led to another. I started seeing some of the HamSCI presentations on it. And my only regret is that I don't have more documentation on that code, but I've been trying to unpack it. I'm running MATLAB here at home. I'm retired. I'm a retired research engineer from the Institute for Telecom Sciences in Boulder. And I spent most of my career doing mobile channel propagations and microwave stuff and tropo, but I never got into the ionosphere because there wasn't a lot of interest during my career in that subject, at least in the radio communication side. So I'm very excited to see very active research going on here. So it's just, I'm kind of taking it in and just trying to see what I can learn along the way here. But I'm enjoying my retirement and now I can set my own agenda and do what I want. So
yeah,
that's about it.
Yes, I'm in the same boat. So
I can
retired
tell you
professor.
if you are interested in FARLAP, and we have a Monday morning telecon where we have a group of people actually using FARLAP. If you have MATLAB, that's useful. So if you ever want to stop by, you can let me know.
Yeah, absolutely, Nathaniel. And do you send out notices on the HamSci page on that, or?
Not on that one. So just send me an email and or just put your email in the chat, and then I will just send you a calendar invite.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. And
You're welcome.
another thing I've been very interested in too is also the 630 meter band, monitoring propagation on that band as well, using my W6 LVP loop and AirSpy receiver. I've had some really interesting results with that. So other than that, let's see. That's about it. But I'll put my name in the chat there. I'm glad to meet everybody here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I hope you come back.
I will.
Yes. So next on the list, let's see, is Clint. K7 OEI. Go ahead, Clint.
Hello, as you can tell, I'm back at home. Spent a couple weeks out and about. Now that I'm back, I need to get a few things straight ready. There's one of the things that I would like to ask for suggestions about would be I'm doing a presentation for the Utah Digital Communications Conference, and the title that I've given the organizers is a software-defined radio and the citizen scientist. So I know some of the relatively interesting things that like Gwen Griffiths and a few other people have about just propagation during the eclipse and all that. But I would also be interested, mainly I'd just be interested in pointers to a few papers about even more esoteric things. I know Gwen has done a lot of that too, but if there's something that you might think that would blow people's minds that we amateur or citizen scientist types could reasonably detect with stuff that we can own, I would be interested in knowing that, because the whole point of it would be to just give an idea of that there's nothing, dispel the idea that there's nothing new under the sun. And I mean that in more the ways than one, especially how everything interacts on, on Earth and with propagation. So if somebody has something that they consider particularly interesting, even if it's very esoteric, I'd be interested in doing that, because I'd rather baffle people with not BS, but with volume, rather than just talk on one or two little things for a while. So, yeah, so I'd be interested in.
Clint, did you read the Frontiers paper we published last year?
I'll throw a link at it. I probably did.
It's a review paper of like amateur radio citizen science, both recently, and includes a table of research that's been done throughout the years. So it's got a good variety of things in it. So
Okay.
that might be
A
one
launching point, yeah.
It's a good launching point.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure I did read it, but I don't think I kept a link to it. So if you posted it, it probably would be there.
I will put it right in the chat now.
Because I'm probably not the only one. Well, thank you. I'm probably not the only one that would find that illuminating. Again, pun intended. All right, that's it for the time being. So thanks.
Okay. Well, next on the list we have Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
I really don't have anything to talk about. I'll just give it back to you.
Okay. Well, glad you're here. And next on the list is another Dave, H, WOQ. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. As usual, I'm just here to see what I can learn and see what I might be able to get involved in. That's it. Thank you.
Very good. Next on the list is Dave Julian, WB9YIG. Go ahead.
Good evening, folks. Yeah, I'm all tickled. I'm out of the boot finally from the foot surgery, so I'm causing trouble again and getting back to the workshop at the pole barn. So that's about all I got. Just another evening of fun and frivolity. Thanks a lot. Back to that.
Okay. Next on the list, let's see. Hold on, Dave knew already. So David McGaw in one HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, there's been a lot of Antarctic activity lately. As Nathaniel mentioned, we've got here at Dartmouth an ongoing project, but ongoing and outgoing. It's, and actually having some interesting problems down there with interference and the like. And then we just had failure. Unfortunately, the power was out to our instrument for 9 hours, and it got a good cold soak. And it hasn't come back up the way we wanted to. Our hard drive may have died. We're going to have to get the technician there to put a new hard drive down in the vault where our computer and receiver is. But good news is we've got hardware down there. But yeah, we're still working on that 2.48 megahertz interference, not knowing where that's coming from. But we did have someone who works with the Ice Cube project, the Muon telescope, at least detect, say that he went to a ham radio that's on site, and he could hear it. So it's not like it's within our instrument, at least. Still, but it's very puzzling. There's something modulating it, but not clear what it is. And then, yeah, so certainly ongoing projects. I've got, the lab move at Dartmouth. Going to move radios over from one lab to another and whatnot. But yeah, I'm realizing, I may be I've gotten, my original position ended, but I've got a temporary position ongoing, which is in fact a normal move for those that they consider retired. And I'm beginning to get very grateful for what I have relative to the what may be some real turmoil in our field upcoming. So as the saying goes that I've heard, when you're warm and happy in a pile of stuff, keep your mouth shut. Back to Matt.
Okay. Let's see. Next on the list is Franco K4VZ. Go ahead, Franco. Welcome
Good
back.
evening. Good evening, everyone. We are in Delaware now, and pretty much the last 3 weeks or so on, I've been moving boxes, moving stuff, and all my radio stuff is still in boxes now. So I haven't done much. The only thing is, I know that John Ackerman is working, and I've been emailing back and forth to add VHF, UHF capability for the RX888 to K9Q radio. So that's some progress. Is testing the code, so hopefully soon we'll be able to use the RXA for VHF, UHF, with the other antenna that is in that radio. Back to you, Dave.
Okay, very good. And next on the list, let's see. I'll recall it. Jeremy McLynch, go ahead.
Yes. Last week I joined in for the first time and I mentioned I was having some issues setting up my server here at NJIT. I'm pleased to report I was able to resolve any of the issues I have had. I think most of it was the issue I was having was solved from the GitHub pull. But I set it all up and it is reporting spots to the website, and I still haven't gotten it connected to our antenna because I have to have Dr. Kim get me up on the roof, but we have it all set up and we're ready to go for it.
Good. Any other comments?
And Jeremy's one of the people that's been joining us for the Antarctic calls on Monday afternoon. So,
okay. Very
so
good.
we're communicating closely with him too. So I very much appreciate him being part of the project.
Okay, next on the list we have Joe W7LUX. Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, all. Not much going on here. The two grapes are plugging away nicely. I recorded a flare somewhere just before noon in Mountain Standard Time. And other than that, it's just staying busy with lots and lots of things, Dave. Thank you.
Okay. And next on the list is Jonathan, KC3 EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. Lately, I've been quite busy, and unfortunately, with non-VLF related matters, so I didn't really get much done. I did submit a Frontiers summary for a Frontiers paper. I hope that went through. I have to check the status on that. That paper was what we talked about, where it will it talks about an introduction to a natural radio and man-made VLF transmissions, and why they're important and interesting, and the system that I built, and the engineering I did, and also the observations, and then future work. So that's kind of the plan, at least with that paper. But that's going to be quite a big undertaking, especially since this is the first scientific paper that I've ever worked on, and for those of obviously for the people on this call that worked on those papers before, they're quite an undertaking, because you have to make sure that everything is very accurate, everything is very precise, cited when necessary, things like that. This is the first time I'm trying to juggle this along with everything else, but anyway, so that's the plan, at least with that. Then I was looking at some of the solar eclipse observations. Nathaniel wanted me to contribute some paragraphs for his report. Nathaniel, we could talk about that one in the general session. I've also been there's been quite a we did not receive any more whistlers, but there has been quite a bit for the month of January, and the past couple of Januaries, it's next to no natural radioactivity. So I was actually I'm actually pretty happy about this, and these whistlers were actually quite strong. So I'm really thrilled. I'm hoping that this pattern of geomagnetic activity will continue. There's been some solar flares, as Joe mentioned. So I'm just hoping that it'll continue. This gives us really good data, and some interesting insight as to what might be the cause of this uptick. Obviously, because we're at solar maximum, and whistler activity tends to follow thunderstorms, obviously, and the solar cycle. So actually, so this is actually really good. Hopefully this is like a really strong peak here. But yeah, we've had really good whistler observations there. And lastly, Nathaniel, I remember that you asked me to reach out to Jim LaBelle regarding the equipment that he has down in Antarctica, because he may have something that might be observing VLF. But from what I remember, I think it's like it's something higher frequency than VLF. I don't know if he's trying to look at AKR or something like that, but it was I think it's something higher than VLF. I don't think.
Jonathan, I can answer that.
Yeah, what was
We're looking at HISS and AKR, but really not looking below 100 kilohertz.
I can also add on to that both Jim and David did give me a presentation last week talking about their equipment. So you're, like David said, it is higher. But the thing that's probably more interesting to you is that the person that's doing the VLF work down in Antarctica is named Rob Moore. And he's also part of this Antarctic project, but kind of on a slightly different branch. But I talked to Hyomin, who's our PI for this, and he gave me the go-ahead to get in touch with Rob Moore and see if he would be interested in working with you at all. So I just haven't had a chance to send that email yet, but there's some path to trying to get you to do some Antarctic VLF stuff.
awesome? Yes, I would absolutely be interested. So, yeah. When you get a chance, let him know, and then I'll just take it from there. So, but yeah, that's all I had. Back to the net.
Okay. Next on the list is Michael Howen, AC0G. Michael, are you there?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Just been trying to get things squared away in the shack. Been doing some software upgrades to 3.3.1 and working with Glenn on the single antenna system. I'm expecting a package from him tomorrow, I think, so we can start assembling a couple of iterations of this single antenna system. And in addition to the one I have here, potentially one at Dave Witten's remote location in northwestern Missouri, among other places. So back to net.
Okay. Next on the list, well, I'm going to call him Paul, but he's busy talking on the telephone, so I'm going to skip over him. Next on the list is Phil Karn, K9Q. Go ahead, Phil.
Hey, Dave. Let's see. Been pretty busy on a bunch of things lately. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Share. Here we go. Okay. First of all, shout out to Scott N5TNL for all the little bugs that he has been tracking down, squishing in KNIQ radio and its associated utilities over the last few days, including a couple that were a real pain in my butt for a long time because I couldn't find them. Anyway, so thank you, Scott. Also, he's taken over I guess he's taken over the primary control of KNIQ Web, which is starting to look better and better all the time. I would like to get it discoupled from or uncoupled from its HF assumption so I can start using the KNIQ radio on other bands. Anyway, so let's see what I've been doing lately is basically updating, cleaning things up, updating documentation, although there's always so much more to do. I've been also active in integrating this into a couple of other third-party applications. This one, I found an aggregator that will accept HFDL data. This is kind of like flight radar and all those but they specialize in everything but ADSB data. So they're taking ACARS, primarily ACARS data, and HFDL is the HF equivalent of that, SATCOM and so forth. So I recently set up my home receiver and all 4 antennas at KFS to feed their to feed their servers. As you can see, the KFS antennas are doing quite well. It's only been running for a couple days. So yeah, these antennas are pretty impressive. Next step is to get it going at KPH. Hope I don't crash their servers with all this traffic. But it's working very well. So yeah, KNIQ radio is starting to find uses in other things besides the Whisper Demon. One of them is Radius Auto RX, which is a project in Australia by VK5QI to and it's been around for some years now, that will search for and find and track and demodulate any number of radiosonde models in the 400 to 406 megahertz band. And he had been using RTO SDRs with all their inherent disadvantages, and he recently switched over to KNIQ radio as his base. So now he can, search the entire band if he uses an AirSpy or some other fast A-to-D front end, and also decode everything in sight at one time. So which is pretty cool. Here's an example of the control panel for Auto RX with KNQ integrated. It used to be you could only have a couple channels. Now basically it's just define constant. I mean, how many channels do you want? One of them is currently is tasked with scanning. So this is spectrum of the 400 406 megahertz band. And if it sees anything that comes above the threshold for a certain period of time, it'll throw a classifier on it. It tries to figure out, first of all, what its frequency is and also what its modulation is. And then if it's one that it can support, which is basically all of them, it'll launch a demodulator on that frequency. So KNIQ radio is pretty ideal for this particular application. This shows the radiosonde that just flew this afternoon. It was launched from right near where I live here. At about 2300 Zulu. Normally 0000, but they usually launch an hour earlier. And that's its path. You can see there's a log of data here, plus there's a log of all the things it has heard. Let's see, yeah, recent radiosondes that it is logged. And it's seeing pretty far. It's seeing not just the local ones, it's seeing well into Arizona, it's seeing Flagstaff, it's seeing even Tucson. I can tell when there's a launch coming at Vandenberg because there's a big flurry of balloons out of Vandenberg. So yeah, KNIQ radio has found another application, which I think is pretty cool. It's why I wrote it. Let's see. I think that's it for. Oh yeah, this is the central tracking site that collects all the data from KNIQ radio. You can see just how popular this has become. All these little green dots are receivers. A couple of years ago, there was only one. It was a high school student near me, and I got some friends interested in it, and it's really spread. So a lot of people now have these things on the air and are listening. And before long, all of them will probably be using KNIQ radio because it'll be a standard part of the Auto RX software. So that's about enough rambling for now. I do want to talk to Franco about the SDR Play driver. I got that in, I think I announced last week I got that in as a loadable module, and it sort of works, except it has some problems. I had to like fiddle with the tuner to get it to start working whenever I change frequency, and I'm not sure why. But it does work. I also have a driver in for the Phobos from Rig Expert. I just ordered one kind of sight unseen because it, on paper anyway, it looks pretty good. It's kind of expensive, around $400, but it looks pretty capable. And since I have a driver for it, I might as well try it out because right now it's untested. So there. That's my story right now. Back to you, Dave.
Very good. I did get all the code compiled, and I'm in the process of. Right now, I don't have an antenna for my Phobos, but I'm working through the steps and almost there. So
it's funny how the stuff you think is hard turns out to be easy, and the stuff you think is easy turns out to be hard.
Yes.
Every time. Yeah.
Yes.
The loadable module stuff actually turned out to be surprisingly easy because I'd already done
it.
I'd already structured things into a table of pointers. And so all I had to do was learn. Somebody had to teach me how to use DL open, and it was easy. I was surprised.
Yeah.
So anybody else wants to write a driver for this thing, have at it. I'm working on HackRF. I had an ancient one. I have one right here that I used to use with K9Q eons ago. And I didn't keep it up to date because, you know, I got the AirSpy, but I'm going to try to resurrect a hack RF driver and throw it in there also.
That would be nice, yes.
I mean, people still have hack RFs?
I have one.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's only 8 bits, which is, you know, one of the reasons I got kind of
Yeah.
lost interest in it, but I got it, so I might as well use it.
It's nice that it does transmit and receive too. It's a nice feature.
Yeah, I'm only doing receive support on it right
Mhm.
now. And if somebody
Mhm.
wants to do transmit, I have to figure out some way to share it.
Yeah.
Both talk to it. I'm not sure how that would be done with the USB device.
Yep. So is that it for you, Phil?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll call on oh, Paul Elliott's off his phone call, so we'll talk to Paul. Go
Hey,
ahead,
yeah,
Paul.
I'm sorry. Did you have to skip me?
Well, I skipped over you for a little bit.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And I apologize if anything I say would have been answered by what I missed. I was talking with Barry Johnson about Whisper Sound and testing he's doing. Couple questions, Nathaniel and anyone else. I guess I'm planning on being at Dayton Hamvention, and I'm proudly required to give a, you know, half-hour talk or something like that on various subjects. So I was hoping that I'd be able to coordinate that with, you know, what's going on at HamSCI, so we don't cover the same ground, you know, so we can complement each other maybe. So there's plenty of time to figure that out, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. I would like at some point to look at what we're all planning on doing so we can coordinate that. The other,
Are you putting in a HamSCI workshop abstract too?
I have not.
Would you consider doing that?
So tell me again what is it that you would want from me?
So the HamSCI workshops March 14th and 15th.
I will not be able to attend.
Okay. Then maybe don't worry about it right now. We can
Okay.
eventually we want to get these Whisper Sons deployed as part of the Daisy 2 project. But I think we're focusing more on the receive deployment at the moment and kind of getting that underway. But so maybe for next year, and I'm sure we'll coordinate more throughout the year.
Yeah.
But maybe put HamSCI workshop on your calendar for next March.
There should be, Paul should be giving a talk at Hamvention.
Yes.
So
yes,
you can look forward to that.
Yeah.
So, but
and yeah, we'll definitely coordinate that. The only reason I mentioned the HamSCI workshop abstract is because they're due next week. So
yeah.
so there's
had I been able to attend, I would have, you know, asked you if you wanted something from me.
Yes.
The other question again has to do with the Whisper Sons. Just wondering what the schedule for deployment is likely to be, just so I don't become you know, I'm not the roadblock on that. You know, I've got some, and I could easily put together, you know, 10 more units, but I don't want to build them until somebody actually is close to needing them. So likely
can we
schedule
just
for that.
Yeah, can we just hold off on that? We totally do intend on doing it, but as I said, I'm focusing a little bit more on the receive network at the moment, and then
No problem. I just don't want to delay things when it does happen.
The other thing I have in the back of my mind is I'd love to get some down in Antarctica, but again, there's
I did want to
complications.
mention this. Paul
Yeah.
has one of his devices in the German site in Antarctica.
I heard, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, Rob's got the receiver there, and they're working on getting that fine-tuned. I'm here right now, again through Rob's software genius, talking to the Whisper Son down in Antarctica, monitoring you know, power levels and things like that. So it's pretty easy to manage these things
if you get the right software help. So that's
Yeah.
really happy that this is working out.
That
But
and that's good to know. Yeah, that's fantastic.
And it is on the air.
yeah, it's transmitting on 8 bands. At least 2 of the bands, it's like 40 meters, some type of antenna. I think it's one that they had already installed. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Definitely not cut for 80 meters. So but we're transmitting on 80 meters through a 6 dB attenuator for that, so it doesn't blow up my transmit driver. Well, the transmit driver would be shutting down if it tried to drive that bad load, but with the attenuator, it's adequate. And so 80 up to 10, we're running on that, and it's getting out on all bands, at least occasionally on 80 even. So it's good.
That is
Very
really
good.
good. Yeah,
So
well, yeah.
check your logs for whether you're hearing it.
Yeah, no, we heard it up here in Friday Harbor. He's only transmitting 1 out of 5 frames because at the moment anyway, he doesn't want to interfere with his receivers also. Apparently they're still close enough that the transmitter kind of dominates when it's running. But 1 out of 5 still gets out there. And I guess that's pretty much it for me. Oh, one more. Yeah, yet again. If anybody is running the RX 888 at the full clock rate and wanting to do 6-meter reception with that, I don't know how that fits into your program, Nathaniel, but I've got my filter preamp, the one that goes up to 10 meters has been out there and working pretty well. And I've got the 6-meter prototype with a killer FM broadcast band rejection notch in the filter.
Yeah.
So if people want to run it up to 6 meters at the full clock rate, I think this new design of mine will be useful to them. So let me
How
know
is it
if
working
anybody.
out on 6 meters? I haven't done it. Is it working well? I mean, the rest of it?
Well, that's a good question because people are running them at 6 meter, at the full clock rate. And I don't know if you've seen the work that Clint's done, describing the front end filter, built-in filter on the 888, but he's described the performance, and it's marginal at best, really.
I've actually built a low noise preamp and proper front end filtering. So you need about 16 dB overall gain just to have any hope of seeing what's going on 6 meters. And I've added that at Northern Utah. And in fact, I've seen your 6-meter whisper whenever it happens. But every day I get FT8s, probably meter scatter from about 1,000-mile radius. So that's a good bellwether. If you're not seeing very routinely every single darn day seeing FT8 receptions from meter scatter distances, there may be something wrong. So, but anyway, I have added that to Northern Utah, and it's working just fine. I have a more conventional receiver up there, and it hears every bit as well if you jump through the hoops and gyrations and all that stuff, which includes 60, 80 dB of FM rejection, and also band passing right around 6 meters. So it does it. The only other thing I'd be worried about is that the AGC only operates on HF, and you can AGC your 6 meters out of existence if you have too much HF gain or too much HF deflection. So I gave it another extra bit of gain, and I don't think that'll happen during peak HF time. So that is one of the gotchas. I'm experiencing starvation of gain on LF and VLF because it's barely there when HF is quiet, but when HF is noisy and K9Q radio throttles back the gain, then HF, the VLF, LF and VLF go to extinction. and I lose 6-8 dB from the noise.
Hey,
Anyway.
Clint, here's an experiment for you. Play with my AGC, change the thresholds, try running it closer to 0 dBFS and see what that does to the overall noise figure.
Is that okay? Okay, last I checked, that was hard coded. Is that
I think I made it an option you can set in the config file.
okay?
Plus I know you can set the gains by hand, so that's probably a better way.
Okay, I'll have to look at the code. If you know,
Have
if
you
know
measured the
input,
noise? Have you measured the noise figure? Do you have a number?
of my system?
The RX888 on 6 meters.
Oh no, I haven't done it yet.
Sounds like it's pretty bad from what you're telling us.
Well, yeah, if you need 16 dB again, just
Yeah.
I mean, needed like 5-6 dB of noise figure in a quiet location just to hear the space around 6 meters. And yeah, I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I have measured it, but it is in a practical sense variable as HFAGC does its thing. And unfortunately, there's no way I know to couple the two together.
So what this is telling us is that a wideband receiver really isn't all that useful.
Well, it's better than nothing, and it's convenient. And if you have, well, in the case of 6 meters, I just give it excess gain. But since there's hardly the probability of strong signals consuming much of the total input power is fairly small, for a band pass limited 6 meter, I'm not too worried about the 6 meter contributing significantly to overloading.
Oh, no, it's not what I meant. What I meant was is that we worked so hard. I worked so hard to make a really wide band receiver with a common front end, and here we have all these dynamic range problems that were not exactly unexpected.
Oh no. I mean, in reality, if we could get 24 inexpensive 24-bit front end ADD converters, I think we'd all be really happy. Even 20-bit, but to simultaneously handle everything. But I'm not too worried about it, except on LF and VLF, as I mentioned, where I just need to add a bit more gain and try to find the right amount that I will not compromise total dynamic range by adding too much somewhere else.
Well, the other thing is antennas. I mean, can you really hook this thing to an antenna that performs well all the way from DC to 6 meters?
Well, at Utah,
that's the other thing.
At Utah, we're using 3 separate antennas. We're using the main Omni. I'm using a 6 meter. It's actually a 6 meter Ringo Ranger, but I have a preamp out. It's located on a tower some distance from our building. And then I also on the same tower have a E-field whip for the LF VLF. So I'm banging 3 antennas together. They're doing, combining them with a lot of bespoke filtering and combiner networks and amplification. So I'm definitely not doing what the average person would do.
I mean, it's an interesting experiment, but I mean, the most practical thing will be 1 SDR per antenna.
True, yeah. I mean, you'd probably be better off. I mean, is it practical to run? I guess it's practical to run an AirSpy or RSP along with an 888 on the same machine. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, the AirSpy is samples at 20 megahertz. So, I mean, everything goes to sample rate. I mean, the AirSpy and the RX888 basically take the same amount of effort per clock, per clock hertz. So,
well, yeah, my point being is that the broader bandwidth you go, the more you have to compromise dynamic range. But if you have I'm most familiar with RSP1, you can set the front end filter to like 5 meg, and it's a pretty brick wall-ish filter implemented in hardware, and that would be probably the most optimal thing you could do for 6 meters if you wanted to see the whole band. If you want to just whisper, you can also select 768 or down to 200 kilohertz, and you could probably run circles around what the RX888 can do without any extra fuss, because I know the RSP does have FM and AM broadcast band filtering in it, although it does you do take a hit with that engaged on 6 meters, and I don't know how bad it is.
Yeah, I have a couple of SDR plays here. I've had them for a while, but I've done very little with them until recently when I got Franco's driver going. I mean, the first thing I did was listen to National Weather Radio because that was the sample config file that he sent, and that worked once I got the right antenna connected. But man, that driver interface is complicated. Lots of options and features. I have no idea what a block. I'd like to see a block diagram of this thing.
Oh, I could probably
Say,
I could help you with that, but anyway.
Okay, Dave.
we got 3 people that are
Oh,
still
I'm
haven't
sorry.
had a
Sorry,
chance to
okay.
talk. So let
Wait,
it,
I still have the floor, so just one quick thing.
oh, okay.
The filter and the filter preamp, the new one, 88 to 108 megahertz, FM broadcast band. It's 80 dB or better rejection. So
Oh.
just for what it's worth, it should work pretty well at the 8 with
Paul,
FM interference.
I mean, Paul,
So
if you expect to sell this thing around the world, you might check to see what the FM bands are in other countries.
yeah, I
know
know.
offhand what they are.
Don't confuse me with the facts, okay?
I know. I
But
mean,
A
think
lot
you're
of
big.
countries aren't using FM anymore. It's all DAB.
yeah, well,
Oh.
this is what it is, and if there are other requirements, that's another fun project, so that's fine.
And
Okay.
OART FM band has mostly gone away, even in Eastern Bloc. So
Wow.
So, well, back to net.
Okay. And let's see. I want to call on Rod, KL1Y. Are you there? Rod's just listening, I think. Then I wanted to call, we already called Scott, Tom McDermott. Sorry, you're down at the end of the list.
No problem. No problem.
We need to call you Al and we can move you up.
There we go. Yeah, A1 or something like that. Going well. Got the Linux headless server back up and running, and K9Q web working fine. So that's all good. And we've had about 8 to 9 inches of snow since this morning. So snowed in on the West Coast. Back to the group.
Very good. Snowy Medford. So the last one on the list is Rob Robinette. So go ahead, Rob.
Good evening, everyone. I continue to focus on Whisper Demon 331, and what's come out of it is I was really just trying to get it work, and thanks to Yeoman's work, wonderful work from Scott. He enhanced Phil's PCM recorder program and put in a mode that works well with Whisper Demon. And but that I was testing his code on the Orange Pi, which I think I previously told everyone was probably not going to be useful. But Scott's error logging reports led me to dig into understanding why and when packets were getting lost. And what I've discovered is that K9Q radio has a tremendous amount of can have a tremendous transient stress on the CPU and its caches. And even this morning, we were looking at an i9 2900, 29,000K, a very high-end 14-core processor, and it was dropping packets. Not many, but for a scientific instrument, it's bad to have errors, and it's even worse if you don't know that you have them. And so what I've uncovered is that is quite possible. Linux, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know about caches. I didn't know about processor affinity or anything until a week ago. I mean, I knew they existed, but I knew nothing about using them. And it turns out that if you tune and assign the various threads, K9Q threads, and tack them to the right CPU cores, you could take an Orange Pi and run the whole thing on an Orange Pi. And in fact, it runs better there than it runs on the i9. So and unmodified this has forced me into adding a new piece of functionality to Whisper Demon, one that I think any user of K9Q radio may need. I mean, it depends upon your goals. If you don't care about drop packets, don't worry about it. If you're just listening to audio, it probably doesn't make any difference to you. But if you're trying to make scientific recordings, um, you really need to be sure that you're not dropping packets, or if you are, at least you know how to do it. And with Scott's help, it led me into the whole world of Linux CPU affinity, and um, it's really quite impressive how the little cores, there's two sets of cores. It turns out CPUs are all different. I didn't realize the difference between them. I mean, I kind of knew they all had different sizes caches and they had different cache characteristics, but there's cache strategies. There's this i9 has 14 cores, but only eight of them have their own level 2 cache. I mean, there's all kinds of variabilities among these devices. So, but the good news is if you tune things right, I think we're going to be able to deploy the Daisy 2 with the Orange Pi 5. And
Rob, are you taking notes?
no, I'm not. I've tried to figure out what I'm doing first. I haven't even, I thought, oh, it's all done. I've got it done. And then this whole caching thing came up. And if it were just the Orange Pi, I would have said, okay, I can push that aside and get a release out and do something. But it may not work now, but it will later. But in order to figure out how to use K9Q on almost any CPU, I need to at least be able to document that there are samples being lost. And once I do that, I might as well configure the CPU, at least the Orange Pi, so that it works properly, and learn how to use the facilities that Linux provides. It's an amazingly rich environment. I just never knew anything about this whole C group. It's called C group facility. There's a file system associated with it, and you go down there and create files in this pseudo file system, and the CPU, then the operating system, then utilizes those settings and to honor this. So I've assigned one FFT thread and one USB RX prop thread are enough to process for K9Q radio to run on an Orange Pi. That's it's a 2 gigahertz ARM76, I think, or ARM74 processor. Plenty. That's all you need for K9Q. But if you don't tack it down and give it exclusive access to those two cores, okay, each having its own core, then the thing falls apart immediately. You can't do it. You can't even get you'll just see constant loss of packets. So for those of you running KNIQ outside of Whisper Daemon, if you're doing it on your own, I encourage you to use, well, I think Scott is going to, I think, submit his changes to Phil for inclusion in the K9Q library. And there's a PCM record dash capital W for Whisper Daemon. Puts the PCM record into that mode, and that's a big I think important, if only for testing. Now, if you're using Whisper PCM record for other purposes, listen to FM broadcasts or narrow channel, these transient losses may not be important to you. But if you're doing it for scientific research, I think you want to, if you want to know that that no data got lost, or a PCM record will tell you when there are losses, in the dash capital W mode. In either case, I think it's worthwhile for those people who use it. So anyway, the good news is I think that I mean I'm just in the process of integrating and testing it with the real world environment, but I can run 15 stress jobs at the same time as K9Q, completely saturate uh, six of the eight cores of the Orange Pi and not lose a sample. So it's there's stellar work, Phil. I mean, it's really extraordinary how well it works, and the efficiency of PCM record is, goes along with the efficiency of the encoding side. They're together. It's almost invisible. You can record all the streams and use less than 1% of the CPU. So the recording process is almost invisible.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah, I mean, a lot of these programs are very memory intensive. So, actually, what I think is probably just from what I was just reading just now, if I found a bunch of web pages talking about CPU affinity, and they all talk about it as a way to reduce cache misses. And the primary candidate that really sticks out would be the FF. It would be RX 888 proc and the FFTs.
Well, they're fine. What I ran the stress test with stressing memory access, 15 instances of stress CPUs, each of which is stressing to 4 MB of its own private cache. That's a lot of space, but it doesn't. 4 MB is plenty for your FFT and the RX proc. They don't seem to need more than that. Well, they actually allocate more than that. I'm sorry, I didn't describe that accurately.
Well,
I leave
what I'm
those.
saying is I would like
They
to
have
have
their virtual spare.
I'd like to have RX proc and the FFT run on the same CPU because, one's feeding the other. I don't want to have to copy the cache of one processor to another.
Oh, well, they are on the same cache. They're sharing a level 3 cache.
Well,
So,
but they probably have
yeah.
separate level 2 caches, which are also important.
They are. Well, you can run the 64 MB mega samples and have your two threads are on two cores, and they seem to be I know they're perfectly happy because there's
Okay.
no.
All right. Yeah, I've always been bothered that, the architecture of KNIQ radio is that you have, several threads in sequence. First, you have RX 888 proc, which hands off to one of the two FFT threads, which then hands off to the receiver channel thread. And when the FFT finishes, it wakes up all those channels at the same time, and they all become runnable. They all get thrown into the run queue. And I keep wondering, what is that doing? How does the scheduler handle that? Right now, they all run at the same real-time priority. I've thought about spreading that out and just, giving one randomly a little higher priority than another and seeing what happens.
Well, yeah, but Phil, in the case of the Orange Pi, it doesn't support real-time
I understand
priority.
that, but I'm also thinking about
everything
how to
is
speed
running.
this up how do I speed this up on a Raspberry Pi 5, for example, because it's very marginal right now on the Pi 5.
Well, do you have if you have a Pi 5,
I do.
Okay, if you can give me access to it, let me experiment on it. Once I get done with the Orange Pi and its optimization, let me try the Pi 5.
Okay, I'd have to move it around. I currently have an AirSpy on it that's listening to 70 centimeters, but I can figure.
Yeah, if you could put a 888 on it, I mean, you don't have to. I can simulate it with stress and so on, but it would be ideal to have you don't have the USB traffic unless there's the 888 attached to the Pi. So if you wanted to set that up, once I get this code into Whisper Daemon 3.1 that does the processor affinity. Then I'm setting up Whisper Daemon so that I'll look at what is the host, and then I'll put a table in that has the settings for that host, which cores are assigned to which things, and what's the memory? What constraints are they to memory that you apply?
Yeah, well, remember, this is going to be more of your configuration you're going to have to manage, and the configuration file is already getting pretty big. I mean, if there's some way I can automate this, so much the better.
I don't know that there's a way to automate it. If I can, uh, maybe you can learn the information about the structure of the processor,
That's right. It's
and
all available.
it's available, but parsing it and so on would be an exercise that I'm going to leave till
Well, and you
later.
have to find out what parts of it are important then.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm just doing is I'm creating. There's only two things to adjust right now, and which is the which cores your stuff, your service. There is an option in the system CTL service file. You can add a CPU affinity line directive. And that's what I've done manually right now on the Orange Pi. I went in and that absolutely works. System CTL recognizes that and puts your radio D on course 6 and 7, the two of the four high performance cores in the Orange Pi. So I'll have to modify the you can get some information. ChatGPT gave me a bash function, and I just copied and pasted in, and it told me everything about give me a list of all the cores and what their performance was and everything. I couldn't be doing this work without ChatGPT. I have to admit. I think it's an incredible accelerator for what I've been doing. I didn't know anything. It led me to all of the CPU affinity stuff. I mean, I knew about it, but it tells me how to get to it. I'm sorry, I kind of went on at length, but that's why Dave puts me at the end of the list here. So anyway, I can go into more detail if people are interested. There's also the work. I don't. Paul talked a little bit about about the Whisper Sound down at DP0, GVN. There is also a receiver going in. Well, he set it up. It's a B-Link and a RX 888, but the 888 I sent him seems to just die after running for minutes or hours and just disappears from the USB bus and doesn't necessarily reappear when you power cycle. So that must be a 888 with some kind of a solder problem or heat related, I guess.
Probably heat related.
Yeah, heat-related soldering problem on the 888. Fortunately, Michael, Professor Michael, I call him Prof, and Michael Howen, who's also in the call, is Doc, because they're both MH, Michael Howen and Michael Harjay. So the professor, so Prof down there, I had an extra 888 he took with him. It may not be GPS disciplined, but hopefully it'll be more reliable. And I don't know how much the equipment and lab equipment they have down there. We might be able to tutor Michael Harjay, Prof, into repairing the one that's intermittent. But so we have complete remote access. There's a K9Q web page that comes up when it's running, but it's not on at the moment. But I imagine in the next few days it will be on. It's pretty noisy environment. I mean, they've got. I think we'll have to look at it. Maybe get Glenn and others to look at the spectrum and compare it against. There's Kiwis. He also has a Kiwi. Prof has a Kiwi and a Web 888 down there on the same antenna. So they don't look like they have quite as. It's hard to compare spectrums between them because the Kiwi doesn't allow you to adjust the height of the spectrum and dedicates all of this space in the Kiwi interfaces to the waterfall, which is in my perspective, almost useless. Waterfalls are, close to useless. for most purposes. And so it's hard to see the spectrum because it's so small. Whereas Scott put in a feature that allows you to expand the spectrum part of it so you can get a much better view and use most of your screen space to look at the spectrum, which is what you want to be looking at, what I want to be looking at. So it's hard to compare them. My inference from what I looked at is that I think that all the radios down there have problems. I think that they haven't really looked carefully at their receive site. The receive site is remote from their main station. So if I think I sent out a post to the group that I think hopefully you all saw that included a link to the QRZ page, where there's a live picture of the station. But that's the main station. It's this kind of flying saucer on legs above the ice. But the receive site is actually remote. It's 1.5 kilometers away. And because they don't have electric ski-doos and they do atmospheric monitoring out at this receive site, they can't drive out there. So they have to walk through the Arctic summer. And so their ability to visit is it's a kilometer and a half. That's a mile walk and back across the ice. And so fortunately he has another 3 weeks, and it does seem like he has a fair amount of time. He's able to find some time on most days to make the trek. So I'm hoping that we'll have that online and a full bore whisper station out there. And because there's this nearby whisper sound that is GPS disciplined, we can probably, even if he doesn't have the GPS disciplined 888, we can probably calibrate the frequency of the receiver. I've never used that feature in K9Q radio, but I think you have that, Phil, right? You can adjust the frequency in parts per million.
You mean to calibrate the source?
Calibrate the frequency. Tune your K9Q
Oh, an
radio.
individual channel.
Yeah.
Of an individual channel. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a double precision float, so actually it can go extremely fine. I display it down to the millihertz, but that's just kind of arbitrary.
Yeah. Well, I just need to be able to. We need to compensate for the inaccuracy of the internal oscillator.
Oh, wait a minute. What internal oscillator?
We'd be using the internal oscillator on the ARX 888 because it's,
okay. Okay. You're talking about the calibration option. Yeah, that's there.
Yeah. I've never used your calibration option, but I presume that we could tune to the whisper sound, which we know is GPS disciplined and accurate to the sub-microhertz, and then use that the difference between what our K9Q and Whisper Demon reports as the frequency. We can use that to just adjust the frequency on the 888 so it gets in.
Yeah,
and
it's
that may
not
be something
user friendly, but that's because I'm using references, so I don't actually use the calibrate feature very much.
Yeah, well, nobody else, but it might be a worthwhile exercise because it might mean that we could, it's potentially we could remove the need for GPS DO out of the Daisy 2 sites, because it'll be interesting to see. It would give us it would be an interesting investigation to take a look at it and see how good can we how good is the internal oscillator. Yeah, how much does it drift during a 2-minute whisper cycle? If it doesn't drift much, then maybe you don't really need to have, we don't, for ionospheric measurements, we don't really kind of know the transmit frequency, the transmitter's frequency. So if you don't really care, you're more interested in the Doppler shift. So I don't know. Anyway, it's something that could be investigated later. Okay, that's that.
Rob, if he's going to sacrifice one, if that 1 that has the GPS reference clock mod, it's going to be taken out of service and replaced by the non-reference 888. He could always pull the back panel off and just shift the GPS, the reference clock mod over to the other unit, because that wouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
But I do like the auto calibrate feature, especially if you had a local signal, that
Yeah.
wasn't experiencing, Doppler shift,
Yeah.
as would be the case, in Antarctica there, he'd be able to listen to the transmitter that's only, a mile and a half away, and then use that to do some sort of automatic
Yeah.
or even guided correction.
I
It'd
only
also
got in
be-
for a short time, but I did see some bursts all around 12 megahertz. Is that super darn?
It
Didn't seem like
probably
else.
It
might
could
be.
be.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, it could be.
I wasn't on very long before the network fell down.
There are there are 3 super darn receive channels that running at KPH and KFS. Or 4. There's 4 channels of super darn recording going on there. I don't think it's working at KFS because there was a power outage, and I think that the hard disk didn't come back. Oh, I didn't get remounted. I need to go out there, find out what's wrong.
I got to bail out. So, anybody have anything that I need to pay attention to here? If not, good night, and thank you for
Thank you,
for
Paul.
everything.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say 73 as
Yep.
well. I'm starting
Okay. Okay.
Okay, good night.
Yeah.
Good
Is
night,
Franco still
everybody.
here? No, I don't see Franco. I go here.
Is Franco? I don't think.
It's
I think
late
Franco.
for him.